Hello, entrepreneurs. I can see my favorite people are here. I even have people from Lesotho. Hello, everyone. There's a hand. Please just put your questions on Q&A. And also, if you have any comments, you want me to slow down, just type on the chat. Hello, everyone. I hope everyone is safe. I know we'll be joined by several people. There's Ahmed, Andres, Anam, Eunice. Hello, Eunice. Hello, girl. Please mention the province you're from. That would be, lots of people from KZN. Good thing. Thank you. Hello. Kayisile, Lucia, Matungwane, Martin. Hello. Neon Tando, ML Gary, hello. Roy, always attending Roy. Smongile, hello. Sive, Siabonga, Pure. Thank you so much, guys, for attending. We are actually really ready to start. The team is available. We have Sonto, Denise, and Bunolo to assist you with any questions that you might have. Team, I've already started. If you can actually, can I share my screen, or should I allow you guys to share? Let me just do that. And please include questions. Hey, Sia from Eastern Cape, Kempton Park, Kanye, Bizo, hello. Okay. Tulsile, and there's so many people that are still coming. Okay, guys. Please use this platform for any questions and discussion. I have tried to cover as much content as possible to allow us to be able to share what we have learned. I would just like to have everyone also just saying how they are feeling, post also on the chat. And when you're posting questions, just add them in. We have 1 hour, but after 1 hour, we can have more intel discussion on other things also that maybe you would like us to actually do. We will also be posting the poll for you guys to actually have comments on what we're running and how we're running things. We want your feedback. In the meanwhile, I'm just going to open the document for us to start going. We will also make sure that this workbook gets emailed to you at the end of the session, and Bunolo is going to create a link for us so that you can then be able to download. But we will also give you a 12-week plan which you can use to help you just have a bits and bytes of strategy. The stuff that we're covering today is mainly just relating to PESTEL. How do you use PESTEL? How can we take what has happened to us in terms of COVID and try to reanalyze and relook on how this new world is actually going to look like? So those who don't know me, my name is Precious Mvulane. I'm an accountant by profession. I love teaching. I've got an auditing background. I also just love sharing the information on the things that I am actually building, but also on the things that I am learning myself in my business. And most of the things that I actually share in our training or even our training is the thing that I actually have self-taught. As much as I've spent so much time in business schools and understanding business, but majority of the things had to be relearned because now the application was required. So it was no longer textbook. So that is me. If you need more information, you can go to our website. In my website, preciousmvulane.com, and any other information we are available. We also have GAD products and services. We have a full finance success program that we have been running since 2014, which has 5 components about setting goals, managing your compliance, and we have a great announcement a little bit later. We have a sponsor for all of you who wanted to actually attend the compliance. We do have a sponsor who's going to pay for those 2 days. Please don't worry so much on that is going to be a 2 days of actually stream live on internet. No, it's just dedicating 2 days to allow you to implement the stuff. What will happen will run for 10 to 15 to 20 minutes maximum, and then you then go back and apply. So we'll run it in segments, give you the principle and give you the structure. You then go back and apply, and then you come back and share. So please sign up for that compliance. It's actually free. We have one of our sponsors who is actually going to pay for that. Our essential financing book, this year we're still working on the update. Finding investors, we're working with several funders there if you need any support. Because we always know when we're running training, that's the first question entrepreneurs ask, funding, please. Okay, so, but as for today, what we're going to be talking about is just to get like a handle on what is a strategy, and looking at it and saying that as a business, when we are building our businesses and what we're doing, we need to somehow map up a plan of attack. And a plan of attack is what in business we call it a strategy. But what you also need to understand is that for you to actually build up that strategy or that plan, you must have a clear vision of what is it that you want. You must know exactly what is your destination. If you don't understand or you don't know what's your destination, the strategy that you're going to work on will actually not get you where you even intended to go or wanted to go. So a destination is important. Setting up a vision that is bigger than yourself is also important, because if you set a vision that is small, you might find yourself not actually able to push through, but also not able to attract the right team to help you build your business. So just watch for that. I'm planning to run another webinar where we're going to talk about how to build a strategy that is going to help you to be bigger. How do you even align it with the goals that are bigger than yourself? And you can even map it up within the UN of what is it that the UN expect the world to actually be progressing towards, and try to see how you can actually look at SGB targets. Now, so how will this strategy or this plan of action actually really work? It works by you defining first, one, where do I want to go? Let's just say you want to go to Durban. God forbid, after COVID, we hope you will be able to travel to wherever we would like to travel to. Maybe you intend, that's your destination, you want to travel, you want to go to Durban. You will then need to work it out in your head on saying, okay, for me to go to Durban, what exactly do I need? When do I need to actually reach Durban? And what tools do I need? So, and you do some sort of an assessment. You do that assessment by just assessing the environment, which is where PESTEL actually comes in. One, you will say, you know what, I want to go to Durban. That's my destination. That's my vision. Then ask yourself, when do I want to get to Durban? Do I want to get to Durban in the next hour, or in the next 2 days, or in the next 3 hours? When exactly do I want to get there? What is feasible for me? What is reasonable? That thinking of reasonableness and also thinking about the environment is very key, because if you think about it, if you have said you want to go to Durban and you want to go and be as fast as possible, which means maybe then the fastest transport you can use will be flying. Maybe it could actually be driving. So then you're going to ask yourself, if I'm choosing to be flying, how much is the ticket? Do I have a transport when I land at the airport, someone to take me to the destination, or will I still need will that be closer to the airport, be closer to my destination? But also then, do you have the things that the airport AXA is going to need, or the courier company is going to need, in relation to, do you have your ID and the passport if you don't have an ID? So it's about also understanding what will it take, what resources will it take for me to be on that plane. If you feel, you know what, I don't have enough money, I am not that much in a rush to get to Durban, maybe driving is fine, because that would be plus minus 5 hours. Okay, now, if I'm driving, do I have a license to drive? Is the car a roadworthy car? Can it actually really take me to Durban? Maybe it's a car that has a hole or something. Is it roadworthy to actually be driving such a long distance, which is plus. It's also about checking how many kilometers exactly it is. And if this is the number of kilometers based on my car, what will be the petrol then cost? And you also have to think about, there's also going to be toll gates and maybe I might actually need to stop at some point to take a break and. So those are the things that you are now mapping up, but you know what your destination is, but now we are working out on how will I actually get there. You might decide, you know what, I'm going to take a taxi, a public transport. Again, you need to look at that. How long, how many taxis are going there? How often do they go there? Which then tells you what time you're going to get there, so that you know if you're going to have a transport or not transport, or make arrangement. Maybe you might decide, you know what, I'm not in a rush again, I will walk to Durban. Again, walking to Durban, if you're like me, not so fit, maybe you're going to faint after 50 kilometers or so. So it's also assessing, am I physically healthy to be able to actually walk? What will it mean? What is the realistic? So strategy is exactly that. It's about looking at, this is where I want to go. How do I think I will go there? These are the different options, but you assess the option and choose the option that suits you as a business owner or a manager or a director, to be able to then map up the best course that will help you to reach your goals, which is your destination. So that is the best I can explain in terms of how does a strategy really works. Now, why as a director do you really need to understand this and learn? You have to understand it because what it does, it allows you to be able to choose the best option available based on what? On the resources you have and the capacity that you have. It allows you, it helps you not to bite more than you can actually chew, but it also allows you to be able to start assessing what are the possible risks and mitigation controls that you can put in place should those things arise. Let's take an example. So let's say maybe you decided, you know what, I'm going to drive to Durban, but then what if my car breaks down during the travel? Then the mitigation could be, maybe I can call my AA, I can call the insurance, so those are that now it's managing the control. What could go wrong in that process? Maybe what could go wrong at the airport, maybe you might lose your ID, or what could go wrong, you might actually miss the flight. So what controls can you put in place to make sure that you actually you don't miss your flight? You might actually say, okay, for me to make sure I don't miss my flight, I then need to make sure I'm there at least an hour before. Am I checking in the bags or not? If I'm not checking the bags, then it's fine 1 hour, but maybe if I'm checking the bags, I might need to be going there a little bit earlier. So again, it's about just understanding, is it a domestic flight? Is it an international? Because all of these have different conditions again. I see that there is a question. I'm going to take it. Please one hold. Team, will you please help me to read the question? I'm trying to get to it. Let me do this. Roy is asking, what about the purpose, values? Where does critical success factors fit in. So, Roy, purpose and values, they come way before you focus on a PESTEL analysis. They come, remember when I said that the first thing is you have to be clear what your vision is, and your vision is your destination. Your vision is the reason why are you going to Durban, which is then the purpose. So all of that for this segment that we're doing today, we are not covering that. We only are covering when you have done your vision, your values, and your critical success factors, and now you want to map up the strategy of how you're going to get to your vision. Great question, Roy. I hope I've been able to answer you. Please make comments also. So your first step in a strategy is to determine where am I actually going, and where you're going must be defined by the purpose. Why are you going there, which is the why. Then you build that in and say, okay, for me to actually achieve this vision and this purpose, these are the values that I want to encompass how we operate. This is what we stand for, and that is how you will actually build that in. For this session that we're doing today, we assume you have done your vision, your mission, your purpose, your values, and your critical success factors. We're now at the phase where you're now saying, I know where I'm going. I now need to choose how I'm gonna go there. Thank you so much, Roy. I see the feedback there. Is anyone who wants to add? I'm gonna check also on our chat if there's anyone who has spotted anything that maybe they want me to just to go over again. Oh, hello, Sia, welcome, Engqoqe, Eastern Cape. Guys, is anything that you want me to explain further on what is the strategy and how do you build and where does PESTEL analysis fit in? Okay, please understand, we will go in your pace here. Whatever that you want to ask and raise, please just let us know. Okay, someone just joined, no problem. Thank you, welcome everyone. Okay, I think we don't have any other question. For now, let's proceed. So why is it you as a director who has to actually map this strategy out? Because as a director, and in most cases as entrepreneurs, we're also shareholders, we're founders of our business. You are the leader. You have to map a way or a plan of attack on how you're actually going to achieve the goals of the business. So that is why that is very important. So as a director also, as you're building yourself up, you will see the gaps in the way you're going to look at this. Because at the end of the day, you are the authority. You are the one whom everyone around you, including employees, including your suppliers, the customers, are looking up to come up with solutions on where there is problems or should there be an issue. Now, let's get to understand on there. First of all, I want to just say there are lots of tools that are available out there to actually analyze macroeconomic factors. It's a lot of them. However, I have found that these tools were not as good, at least to me, they were not as good as PESTEL. For me, PESTEL is one of the great tools that allows you to really look at what are the issues that are happening at the macro level. So macroeconomic environment is basically external factors that are outside. And we're talking about this COVID because we're saying we didn't create it in South Africa. At best, we know it started in China, but the whole world has to respond to this. And if the whole world has to respond to this, it also means we also as entrepreneurs have to analyze what's the impact in our businesses. And we use PESTEL to identify threats and weaknesses, which we then use to slot in another analysis, which we call SWOT analysis. Because at the end of the day, the business does not actually exist in a vacuum. So one of the things also that allows you to be able to look at this is because this tool is very simple. For me, I find it very simple, easy to actually understand and follow. But what it also does, it also includes cross-function skills and expertise, which then helps you to integrate things. Because remember, in business, one of the biggest challenge is to integrate different cross functions and understand the impact of one in another. But I also like it because it encourages you to start looking at what are the new opportunities. It helps you to understand and think really strategically what would be the best way of reaching your goals and actually enabling yourself to build up. But it also allows you to see the implication of entering markets both locally or even global. And with everything that is happening, one thing you can be sure of is that the world is no longer seen as separate. So as entrepreneurs, we can no longer look at our businesses as just being about South Africa. We should be starting thinking about how can I expand? How can I expand to other regions? The safest is to expand within SADC. And I'm of a view as entrepreneurs, we really need to look in those countries because those are easy for us, especially as South Africans, because the laws that have been adopted by those countries, SADC countries, are generally have been or being implemented in South Africa. And also, I mean, I went to Namibia the other year. I was using my rand. I didn't need to use Namibian dollar. So I'm saying to you, I mean, I think also even in Swaziland, Lesotho, you can use your rand. So all those things then reduce the risk for us. So if you want to expand, really look at what areas can we build? Where can we build? And the quickest is our neighbors close by within SADC. And before we can actually expand to Asia and other countries. However, like any tool, there is disadvantage with it. Because of this tool being too much simple, it then it just makes the user to oversimplify the information. But think about it, it kind of like categorize the information into some sort of blocks, but with a way that it will then get integrated within the SWOT analysis. But also you end up doing parallel analysis where you are actually analyzing too much information and forgetting why are you actually doing it. So you have to consistently be reminding yourself that, you know what, I am looking at this factor because this factor affects me this way, and the way it affects me, it will then have this implication. And remember, any implication in your business has to be around 4 things. Those 4 things, those who have attended my training, is income. How will it affect my income? How will it affect my expenses? How will it affect my assets? How will it actually affect what? The debt, which is your liabilities. So that is what you should consistently be reminding yourself as you're going through to this information deeper and deeper. Now, when you then also think about it, because of this tool being so simple, you then end up taking so much time. And in other instances, the information that you're getting is actually, you might need to pay for it because it's a marketing company that needs to do that industry norm. But majority of the information, guys, it is available. I mean, my go-to, I guess, because I'm in from auditing environment, is Deloitte & Touche, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all the auditing firms. They all release publications every year, even McKinsey, every year in different industry of what is actually happening there. That then allows you to be able to go deeper in understanding how the industry within South Africa is actually working, but they will also look at how does it then compare to the rest of the world in terms of how it responds to the needs locally and also globally. The last issue though with PESTEL, because most of the time when you get the information, it's a data, it's not an information yet, it's still just data. The interpretation of the data might actually be different depending on how you perceive things. So therefore, it ends up being very subjective. So that is one of the advantages and disadvantages. Please understand that it's just a tool. You can use it with other tools, but as I said, for me, for someone who's starting on strategy, this is the first place to start. And we will share other tools also, even on the blog. Please make sure you subscribe on the blog, because we are releasing articles on a weekly basis for you to then have a better understanding. Now, so like I was making up an example of going to Durban, you then have to ask yourself within PESTEL, and in terms of how will these things, i.e. being political, economical, socio-economical, technology, and environment, and legal, which is your compliance, how will it actually affect your organization? What evidence and data do you have that support or actually provide with some insight into some certain conclusions that or decisions that you want to make? And you also need to just play around with it and ask yourself, what is important right now? In the next few years, what will actually be happening? And that is why it's also very important that when you're doing PESTEL, you don't just look at what is happening in your country. You should look at what's happening in the world, what's happening in the industry, what's happening to the market, and how are you responding as a business. So I kept on going back and forth about PESTEL, on what it is. Basically, if you really think about it, when we talk about politically, we're talking about government policy. We're talking, and generally a government policy in South Africa, we found it within white papers, they call it frameworks. And in other instances, in other countries, you can also find government policy from their election document that they are using to recruit or to get voters. That gives you some insight on where the direction of the country is going, but also how they are responding to the external factors. And then the other item within political factor is also just looking at the political stability. And even though political stability is very much, again, kind of a perspective to people, it's also about how you interpret it. I think political stability in South Africa is key because it does change chairs in relation to our local government. It has a huge impact if there's certain specific projects that were assigned by one political party within a spin-off, a short space of time, then there's another political party. In general, what we've found is then that political instability then means those projects also may not be items that the other political party adopt or continue with. Corruption politically, while this is not a political issue when it comes, corruption is also about legal. How strong is our justice system to enforce laws and regulations? But it's also about the social economic activities on how the population responds and hold the politicians accountable. I generally feel corruption does not necessarily fall in political, it cuts across because it's also influenced by economic growth and disposable income. We know that where there is more poverty, general corruption is more because people need access to certain resources. And when that access of resources is not available, it then creates a space for corruption. So if then we can solve the issue of standard of living, corruption will also be reduced. But again, it's a perception, it's more of how we look at things. Look at America. There is quite a big corruption. It's just maybe sometimes corruption is not dressed as corruption. But when you really start analyzing how a political person can actually buy themselves and vote depending on how much money they have and how much they can throw it in advertisements and all, you then really realize that even our democracy is actually at stake because of economic powers that exist. So always look at these factors not in isolation. That is why one of the disadvantage of PESTEL is that even though it tries to separate things, it then ends up not making you as to see the link on how these things actually fit in one another. I think the other day I was watching CNN, and we were just looking at, they were looking at the number of people that Trump has let go that were given a presidential pardon. And majority of those people, they were white collar people, then really core, because that is his constituents, people that are in business. So never think that politically it does not have an economic impact, and also the legal part does not interfere into that. So just don't look at them as just one side. Tax policy, foreign trade, and trade restrictions, and so on. I think for COVID, what we need to be starting looking at, we saw the South African government really stepping up. However, can they maintain it? Can they maintain this type of leadership and this type of decisiveness? Because if they can, then we can actually reach our economical freedom. Shorter, maybe our children will see it, for everyone, for every South African. But we also understand there has been quite a lot of issues in relation to corruption, again, cropping in on food parcels, and again, take that same scenario of what has been happening in the US. The US, the federation, the federal state decided that, you know what, since Trump administration was not interested in providing tools, they will then go ahead and do the stuff themselves. Now they are managing COVID. Now the administration within Trump is saying, no, we're the one who's going to open the country. It's no longer states. What we need to understand is that sometimes politicians want the glory, but they don't want to get their hands dirty. And like anything, in any decision you make as an entrepreneur, you need to also understand there will be casualties. There will be people that, and clients that you might need to let go, and suppliers that you may not actually go on with them because of certain things or how you actually make decisions. But all of that is also highly influenced about who's willing to work hard. So you really need to start also thinking about, if South African government has done so well at this point, and yet there has been some few concerns in relation to the economic impact, and also understanding that our country has got such an inequality, what will that mean in terms of crime? Which then now talks to legal. We need to now start looking and say, within that, what does that mean in terms of employment? This platform that has been provided to be able to do internet. Right now, we have people that are not even from South Africa that are part of this discussion for us today. It means the customers that we are actually having are no longer need to be within our boundaries. We can actually sell products and services outside. It then talks also to corporate rights, penance. It talks about cross-border taxes and transactions, and that is why as South Africans we also need to push for that seamless trade between the African countries. Again, it also touches on currency. What does that mean? Because isn't then the cyber related currencies are more prone then to be used? Of course. So all of these things, because when politicians are not making good decisions, it has an impact on the economic, and the economic also then affects our pocket. So as an entrepreneur, you really need to look across each of this. There's definitely going to be a change in the usage of the technology. So, but how does that impact you? What research do you need to do? What does that mean if it increases technology? Does that mean all your products and services must be available online? Is it possible? I promise you we'll go in more details in some of the items. practically everything within your PESTEL will be affected. Some of it is affected positively, some of it is affected negatively. One of the ones that I really love about the environment is how much this lockdown has actually helped to improve. They are seeing certain animals that will have never actually been found for years, but because of actually us locking ourselves in our houses, animals have been able to actually come out. There has been also some stories on how clear the water has been, and so there is positive while there is also a negative. So as you analyze your PESTEL, don't only look at the negative, also look at the positive and ask yourself, in those positive, how can I then use that positive to improve my competitiveness edge, and also to improve how I actually work with people and the clients and also the employees. The last one that I want to mention, I think this one is going to turn things upside down, especially for South Africa, is labor laws. Our labor laws and access to skilled labor is really going to get challenged because our labor is not that skilled technologically. That is one of the biggest area that is going to get affected. Please have a look at the additional material that I've posted there. I've posted, I think, about 4 links, and I've also posted the places where you can look and subscribe to get to your industry in your business. And I've also just put even generics that SA. TriLeg does a lot of trade analysis on the trade. Look also within newspapers. I like ILO. They usually have different opinions. It also helps just to have a different perspective. As I said, Pricewaterhouse, Deloitte and Touche. I think also even Ernst & Young has quite a bit of publications. The reason why I like those is because they don't just look at the issues at macro, they also look at the micro level. How should South Africans respond? How should the market be actually responding in certain factors? So guys, for now, can I allow some more discussion? I don't see any more questions. Okay, hello. Yes, Ubonolo is gonna send the information. Thank you so much, team. There's 2 more questions that are open. Dor Sandik, at Precious, if the strategy is to bring strategic partner that will add value, thus growing the revenue, would like to buy a domain partners, how can one structure the transaction? Ooh, can I answer that at the end? Team, please remind me to answer that one at the end. Roy. So Roy is saying, hi, Precious. PESTEL and SWOT analysis can be subjective, overlap perception. What other tools can you use to measure or compare the result? Okay, so there are several tools that you can use. Some of them are called value chain analysis. I will give you more lists just now. But most of the time, it's not even about the tool. It's about how you take the information and interpret it and then act on it. So yes, the information can be subjective, but the reason why it's subjective is because it depends on your perspective. Because it is based on your views. What do you see? How much knowledge do you have about your industry? How much do you know about your customers? How much do you know about your suppliers? Because at the end of the day, this is more about the outlook. And remember, the outlook, I mean, I usually make this as an example that in most, a person who has never been exposed, is coming from rural places, for example, maybe where in KZN, take that person from there and plug them in Sandton. They will have no way to go, which way to go. But you have to allow people to have an exposure first for them then to map up their way. So PESTEL basically allows you to see things in a broad view, but it allows you also to see how does the government respond to external factors that are outside of its control, but what policy, so that you can make a view as to, will that help my business or disable my business? So Smongile is asking another question that says, for us as entrepreneurs, how does PESTEL assist us as COVID seems to have put everything on standstill? So Smongile, you're right. COVID has put everything to standstill, but it has not been a standstill in your learning, in your building yourself up. So I use this opportunity personally to actually be ready when the country opens. I'm ready to run. I'm ready. I'm putting systems and processes to allow me to be able to do more, to see how will this impact my industry. So use this time to say, okay, post-COVID, pre-COVID, this is how we operated. Is this way of operating reducing or increasing the risk of COVID? Because if it's increased the risk, then you should be putting measures already. And so the government has already pulled up the legislation and regulations on what are those that needs to be in place, which now talks to your legal. Again, we will talk about how the technology a little bit earlier. For example, if maybe you were doing a courier business, you are doing a courier business as your core business, but in that couriering of business, you are mainly couriering things that are non-essential. You should then be asking yourself, shouldn't you then be changing the strategy? Shouldn't you now start empowering yourself on who are the suppliers and customers of essential services, so that you can start building up a mix of products and service? The aim of having this in place, because remember, COVID is going to exist with us. It is estimated from now until I think maximum is 2 years, because they are still working on the vaccination. You therefore have to understand, from now to the next 2 years, what does that mean? What does that mean for your business? What does that mean for your customers? What does that mean in terms of how would you actually build additional resources or additional income for you to be able to do the work? Please, team, don't book things as being done, as being answered, because they disappear in here. So Sibongile, the best way that you can do this is to look at your industry and say, politically, what does that mean? Please understand, politically does not just mean the ANC. It also means considering also what are the opposition parties saying. Because of COVID, if ANC, maybe by, let's just say, it mess up its plan and it fails to live up to what they started with, it just might mean there will be a change then in leadership. Do you understand what I'm saying? So start asking what if, and ask yourself those questions. Also apply that at the South African level, at the country, but also ask that at your local municipality, at your provincial, what impact that has. What impact that has on how you procure, on where you buy, who should, and what policy will then influence certain decisions around your customers and your suppliers. Okay, I hope I've answered that. There's another few questions. Anna's hand was up. Guys, will you please allow Anna to talk in the next few minutes when I'm done with So Sibongile is saying the significant strain mostly is being economical perspective. That is true. Economically, COVID has really touched the nerve throughout the world, not just in South Africa. But the reason why maybe in South Africa we're gonna feel it the most, it's also because we are a very unequal country. There's those who have more than what they need, there's those that don't have. So that is why it has affected us quite negatively. As a result, the government has increased the social grants and the support, but we do foresee that that will not be enough. Now, what I do also want to say that it did affect economically, but it also affected the legislation. It also affected, even within the ANC, you can kind of see the team Ramaphosa versus the previous regime, them being on the sides and so on. So you are seeing certain cracks within the political party, but also even with the police. Look at what the National Treasury has been releasing, sometimes even saying the opposite of what the ANC is saying in relationship to a BE. And so, yes, there is economically, it's because economically we feel it quicker, but there is other issues that are cropping in that are indicating that we do need a stronger leadership, a decisive leadership, but a leadership that is not just going to think about those who have, but those also who don't have. And thank you, Swangile, for the comments. Roy is saying, government is borrowing billions to mitigate effect of COVID. These loans will have to be paid, which ultimately, as a taxpayer, we need to pay these loans in the next few years, which means we'll have less disposable income. How we be positive in this negative environment? So, Roy, first of all, we need to accept the things we cannot change, the things that we cannot control. The reason why South African government is borrowing billions to mitigate is because they do not have the money. Even if they were to print the money, that printing of that money will cause such an inflation, we will end up like Zimbabwe. Because South Africa, we are not producing. And we don't even have reserves, even for dollars, for us to import more petrol and the resources that we need. So this, as far as I'm concerned, when it comes to economics, it's also just understanding that there are certain instruments that we can use, but some instruments, this one is the safest instrument as compared to printing the money. And also, the good thing about COVID is it affects everyone in the world. So whatever negative impact it's going to have on South Africa, it will not have such a shock that it will affect how we're perceived by the world. So I can see there's lots of negativity within COVID, but I'm also seeing quite a lot of positivity, especially about bringing technology to be a forefront of dealing with inequality and poverty in our country. Because now, as educators and teachers, we're starting to talk about having a quality education being accessible to every child, irrespective of where the child is coming from. My children have not lost one day of schooling, but I know millions of South African kids that have not actually had that because they do not have access to technology, the infrastructure, including the support. The teachers are not even equipped to write. My school for my kids, within a week, we're fully online. But we know that in terms of our infrastructure as a country, we're still behind. This also means as a country, we're gonna now start being proactive to actually deal with the issue of data, the infrastructure being improved across the country, including rural areas, but also really drive development. Because now, even a child that is in rural place can actually have the same education as anyone, as long as we deal with electricity issue and we're dealing with data. And if we can focus on those things as a country, I promise we will see the issue of inequality in terms of education and access to quality education being actually reduced. So that is why I see this as a positive. I really want you guys to start thinking about the long-term investments in relation to these things. And what does that mean in terms of businesses then that we want to build in our environment? Sure, thank you, Swangile. I'm happy with those. you are happy with that. Thank you so much, guys. Okay, let's continue. Oh, there's Anna's hand was up. Guys, please allow Anna to actually talk. Anna's hand was up. Oh, I can't find Anna. There we go. Hello, Anna.
Okay, now it works. Okay. That was a mistake. Sorry. I wanted to ask a question and I wasn't sure, but then I saw the question section.
Oh, no problem. But please go ahead, since we've already allowed you to talk.
I'm not sure if you could see the chat. I just asked for your LinkedIn contact. But,
no problem. Bunolo, please send through the details for my LinkedIn contact. Thank you so much, Anna. Okay, guys. Please, any questions? If there's anyone who say, Precious, just stop there. I want to just have an idea. I don't want to leave any. You know, one of our motto in our little business, in all the classes that we teach, we say we shall never leave anyone behind. One of the biggest thing with our education, especially in South Africa, has been it's so unequal. So in our class, everyone should actually come up. I would rather have someone saying the content was too weak than saying it was too difficult. I couldn't actually absorb. The aim is to get you thinking, but the more you think about these things, the more you're gonna start coming up with solutions. There's someone's hand that is up. Someone's hand is up. Okay. Oh, yes. Hello, Nhlanhla. Hi, Nhlanhla. Please go ahead.
Let me.
Oh, we can hear you, Nhlanhla, now. Yes, great. Thank you. Hello.
Okay.
Where are you coming from?
Pardon?
Where are you coming from?
What do you mean where I'm coming from?
Where are you based?
Oh, I'm in Joburg.
Oh, great. Hello, how are you?
I'm fine, Precious.
Thank you. Question.
I'm one person that has always followed you.
Oh, thank you for the support.
I just wanted to find out if when you look at strategy, teaching, and implementation, is there a lower level course that you can roll out to? I'm just speaking from a person that has little knowledge. So my question is, do we have a way to reach a lower level? You gave an example for Muntu from Mhlabuyalingana. How do you move that person from a level where the screen is blank, open their mind to understand strategy in business? Because probably what we understand is, I want to do business, but in terms of those little details that come in, how do we help one another to germinate and grow? That's my question.
Thank you so much, Nhlanhla. What I can actually say that there is, at JD, that is what we try and attempted to do. When we actually started running workshops on strategy, we have basic and we also have an advanced course. What we have found though has been, it's not so much that maybe the word strategy, it's actually not understanding, mapping up a plan is actually a strategy on its own, is designing a strategy. We have used the word strategy, sometimes people then feeling as though it's something big, it's just out there. Like I was making an example of actually having an intention to travel, to go to Durban, for whatever reason you're going to Durban, for whatever purpose. Running a business, it's exactly that. You set a goal. I want to reach this much turnover. I want to make this much of, have this much on my assets. And then you can even categorize that. That part is what we call it financial perspective. But for you to achieve that financial perspective, you then have to say, what are the things that I'm going to need to achieve that result? What skill set am I going to need? That is what we call it organizational perspective in terms of capacity of the organization. You then ask yourself, okay, customer-wise, what does the customer need from me to deliver on this? So I want you guys to think of a strategy, not as a word, but think of a strategy. It's a plan. It's a plan of action. It's your attack. How am I actually going to run my business? And taking time to think and map it out, that is what you need to be working on. And guys, it's not going to all come and then one day you start talking these words that we're talking about. It starts slowly. And that is why we're going to share the 12-week program with you so that you can start just consume it bit by bit. I've just finished another program with Mondelez, another listed company called Mondelez. They are entrepreneurs. They submitted 1-page strategy. But to get to that 1 page, I promise you, I don't know if they're here, they will tell you how difficult it was, because the questions you are asking, the depth of that question, the ability to extract the information and make your assessment. The stuff that Roy was talking about taking information and then getting that information and find that is subjective. That subjectivity have to be clear, because you have to justify why are you choosing that path. What gives you that assertion that that thing will work in that environment? Andres Malapo, hands is up. Okay, I will allow you to talk. I hope I was able to assist Antla. We're gonna, as entrepreneur, learn these things bit by bit, but consistently over a period of time. We will not sing these words or understand these things overnight, but it's gonna be over a period of time. So continuous learning every day. Andres, hi. Please talk. You are allowed to talk.
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, this was a very insightful way of looking at strategy.
Oh, thank you. Please go ahead with your comment. You had a question, you wanted to raise a comment? Okay, so there's, hello? I think I'm losing him. Okay, Tim, would you assist me? Send him a private message in case we have lost, for him to email his comments or note so that we can then make note of that. Guys, I'm gonna back to the questions. There's few questions that have been asked. I'm gonna, this one has been answered. Toizo, Mkaya, your question here is say how to prevent panic decision during this time. We are in training business. We are now working on line training. However, I firmly believe our target client has data challenges, connectivity, etc. I feel we're investing on the wrong direction because of the panic decision. How can we stick to the strategy and adapt to these changes? So, Toizo, I mean, me and you are on the same line of work. So what you should be asking yourself, if your client or your customers have a challenge of data and connectivity, you should then try to see if you can't do distance learning. Distance learning basically means you're gonna record everything and put it on the bag and then courier it to them to actually learn. But at some point, you will connect with them to get their question. But it also means you're gonna need to set up infrastructure on your side in your business that allows people to ask questions. Maybe you might actually build up WhatsApp groups. Maybe you might actually have a membership site where people can download things and give feedback to you on what they understood, where they can pose questions and end. But what I need to say is that these issues that you are having as a business are here to stay. Data challenges in South Africa is an issue, as I had said earlier, because I'm sure you must have heard, as of 1st of April, Vodacom was planning to reduce the prices. I don't know if they have, but there was a commission that was done. Have a look at what the commission concluded. They have been overcharging. And also look at the electricity issue has been better this time when we were locked down because the businesses were closed. So there was not a lot of load shedding. But connectivity, the stability of the infrastructure is still there. So those things we cannot solve. But you might also need to consider when you're given the training by a company like myself, a company will say, Precious, go and train there. Find out what tools are they gonna make available to the entrepreneurs or to your target market. Let me make an example. Before tourism, you will need to have booked the venue, pay for food, and pay. There's a lot of expenses and travel. Why can those costs be used to set up an app that load all the information of which the client can actually download once and then they can read on their own? So what I mean to you, you're gonna have to be innovative. You're gonna need to look at what works for which environment and what's that customer, because some others, they don't even have a smartphone. Do you understand what I mean? Again, understand your customer and then look at what platform, what tools. You could also use other distribution lines, like if maybe you're targeting a specific area, use the library as your distribution centers for the books when we are on the level where the libraries will be open and so that then your customers have access of the information. So all I'm trying to say, we can take this discussion, me and you, outside, but I'm using this example for you all entrepreneurs to really be thinking hard and come up with solutions for different users based on your customer profiles, because that is why it's important to focus on a specific customer profile, not too many, because if you have too many, you might have to come up with solutions for different ones. Okay, so there is a question. I will read it at the end. Let me try to finish some content. We're running out of time. And I love the questions. Thank you. Keep on putting them through, guys. Team, let me just proceed. We're almost there. So once you have done your SWOT analysis, your PESTEL, you then have to take that information and put it on 4 of these quadrants, which is your SWOT analysis. Team, please help me. I think we need to mute people that we had allowed them to talk because there's a feed of the noise. Nhlanhla, will you please mute yourself? Thank you. Okay. So entrepreneurs, what you need to take each factor and ask yourself, how does that affect my business? Does that give me an advantage? Is it a strength now? Does that give me the weakness now? Does it give me a new opportunity, or is it a threat? So once you have asked those questions, you then have to take everything that you have collated on your strength, put that on your company profile, and put that on your proposals, templates, where you say, why us? You're then gonna take your weaknesses. Your weaknesses, you're gonna put them on your daily action plan on working and improving yourself so that your business is able to deal with its weaknesses, but also manage the risk of those weaknesses actually materializing. The second last one is now the opportunity. So on the opportunity, that is where you are gonna actually build the strategy. That is where you're gonna build how I'm actually, because it highlights the areas where you can capitalize, where you can actually make, they call it low-hanging fruits. The threats, We take the threats and put them straight to our risk management, where you're going to be looking at saying, you know what, I can't do anything with this threat. All I can do is to monitor and look at how it's actually impacting the business and try to cost, should this happen, how will I actually deal with it? The aim is for you to act on the information. There is no point of having an information if you're not going to actually use it to act on it. So make decisions on it. Don't park it. Don't leave it aside. Don't say, I'm not sure. If you're not sure what to do with it, it might just mean it's not affecting your business direct, it's affecting your business indirect. Now, post-COVID, what is it that you should be preparing yourself for? With the research, little research that I've done, but also, as I said, I'm really trying to push myself. I'm really trying to get myself ready. And as I'm learning these things, I am then saying to the team, guys, let us share what we've learned with other entrepreneurs, because we're all on the same boat. We definitely have to work smart to actually, and to make it in this environment. And working smart basically means we're gonna now start making sure that we accelerate the learning. Because for you to work smart, you must have thought smart. For you to think smart, you must have known better. You must have had different options that you have assessed in your mind. The other part also that will actually make you to really look into this in more, I think I was in another webinar it was last week as trainers, where it was a trainer session with UJ team. And I said, what I have found about this COVID lockdown that I undermined was the mental health. Because of all this hype of things and information, your mental stability is the most important thing. You're gonna need to figure out a way of making sure that you keep your mind off negativity full time and sustain that even with your employees. And sometimes it's even difficult because you can't even connect with your employees in other instances. So you're gonna need to just figure out a way of sustaining your physical and your mental state. There will also be new skills, a new talent that you can buy, borrow, exchange, and this can be done now at the scale. I can now easily, even before COVID, we could employ someone in India, Palestine, where some of the skills that are expensive in South Africa, you can outsource. And there's lots of platforms, we'll be sharing that in the next few weeks, of platforms where you can get different skills in different places where it's way cheaper and quicker. But also that comes with its own risk, where you can't track people, where people disappear. I've had instances where I had a project that was supposed to be right and the person just disappeared from the face of earth, no longer responding to email and so on. But then you're gonna need to learn what are the risks and how to manage that. The flexible workforce, we have seen that, recently we've seen that big time. Myself, for example, I'm in the morning, I'm more a mom. In the evening, I'm more a career woman, because in the morning I'm helping my kids. So flexible hours, I'm working more weekends than during the week now. So that flexible work hours, which means how we're managing our employees, also has to change. This environment is also going to look for leaders that lead with the head, heart, and the hands. And I hope entrepreneurs are understanding this. You must be able to foresee what's going to be happening in future. You must already be looking at saying, what are the possibilities? What are the things that could hinder me to achieve this? But you must also do that from your heart. That is why it's important. You must do the work that inspires you, that empowers yourself and the people that you work with. And you must be someone who's ready to work, able to respond quick to the needs and run with it with or without your team. Because if you can't get hold of your team, does that mean that business has to shut down? No. It means you then have to execute quick and agile and fast, and be transparent too. Purpose-driven culture, that is important. We'll cover that when we're talking about vision. But now, purpose-driven culture will also talk to how we prepare to meet the new challenges. How, as a team, you build yourself to make sure that the business is just not about you making money, but it's also about building up the community and the environment that you're in. And the last one is about the operating model of your business. Some of you, your model was really too much in physical content. Now you're gonna need to build up to start thinking digital. How does that mean? How does that look like? So that is what we foresee for you as a leader. You're gonna need to actually build yourself up. What does that mean as you now as a manager? It means as a leader, you're gonna actually start understanding technology. You're gonna adapt to understanding how you're gonna manage the future employee. You're gonna be conscious. You must have certain beliefs about collective intelligence. You must also embrace being vulnerable. You must also understand that whatever that is, as much as you can share your fears, but you shouldn't give power to those fears. You should somehow recognize that you still are a leader. You still have to portray that stability, because when you are weak, the whole business is also going to be weak. And there is more content. You can just Google that future organization that is also just talking about you might actually have different teams in different places. You might actually also be connected with different workforce at different places. You might also be focusing more on the want instead of the need. And so have a look at those and see how does it mean in terms of communication? What does it mean in terms of running your business on the cloud? What does that mean in terms of you actually shifting from being a business that is just focused on profit, but also look at the prosperity of how that inequality is actually going to bridge up. And that applies everywhere in the world. Have a look at that. I think maybe you might find few ideas that are going to help. I've also provided this of saying that the previous employee was 9 to 5. Now you're working at any time, anywhere. They worked in an office. They have a use of computer equipment. Now they use their own device. So it might just mean you need to look at your labor relations, basic conditions of employment, your employment contract with your employees, so that they bring their own devices now. So those are the things you're gonna need to think about. Instead of measuring inputs, you're gonna move to measure output. Bro, what did you bring? What did you deliver on? What did you do? So make sure the task and the work is quantifiable. And so there's more actually to share there. We will be discussing this part in more details when we're talking about remote worker profiles, how to find them, and. Please go through that. And we will also share this ebook, workbook for you guys to be able to understand. As I said, we are gonna have a remote web profiles and discuss with some HR specialists on how to build the right team and the attitude and the skills that you are looking for to then build up. So what do we see in terms of technology is actually going to be happening? We have seen few key technology trends: online shopping, robot deliveries, especially in China. We saw that quite often in China and in the US. Digital and contactless payments. I've seen that in South Africa quite a bit. We're tapping now when we're using our payments. Remote work, actually, I don't even need to go more on that because we've right now we are remote. I will have run this training on face-to-face. Distance learning, there's gonna be huge shift there. Telehealth is more when you're calling the doctor and asking for advice, and they then ask you certain questions, and then they will then maybe send someone to take some blood, they analyze that. So it's more, actually there's no physical contact, but you are able to talk to your doctors. There has been a huge increase on that. Online entertainment, oh my goodness, you can see on how much YouTube has been. I mean, look at how YouTube is now really starting to cream the money. And this entertainment is not your formal, typical entertainment. That is what I like most about it. It just allows you and all of us to have a platform to share entertainment, and not by prescribed by people in Hollywood or anywhere. Supply chains, we have seen, we need to be looking at big data, cloud computing, Internet of Things, blockchain. I think blockchain is going to really be strong, because as the countries are figuring out, and their currencies are actually, and because they are not trading, it's actually going to then mean their currencies are getting weaker. And so I think blockchain is going to, if you have not bought a blockchain like me, I think maybe it's time to rethink that. 3D printing, we've seen that quite a bit, even within the essential services, robotic drones. We saw drones actually being nurses to help with a huge pressure on the health workers and so on. And which means if drones can actually help a nurse, a human being, they sure can do quite a lot. Maybe I need to find a robotic myself to help with my kids and the homework, you know. So I think those are the things. 5G, information and communication technology, we're gonna see a huge growth there, especially within South Africa. But we're also gonna see that even within Africa, even though the infrastructure right now is lacking. The government is planning to invest on that. We'll see how they actually work around with the backlog on the infrastructure. But above all of this, what does that mean? It means we're gonna change our human behavior. It means AI, artificial intelligence, in work will actually be more effective than human beings. It means we need to look at our work arrangements and access to skills and competency. It also means that there has to be some investment on your part as a small business on the cloud and the infrastructure. Because we also know that the hackers are not sleeping because the environment is not safe. They are also trying to get as much and capitalize in this environment. So the biggest impact though is gonna be our labor, education, and entertainment, especially moving from a normal sport to be on esports. And there's additional reading for you guys to just understand. Look at the ones that relate to your industry. Look at the ones maybe that are giving you more ideas to start maybe certain other businesses. It might just mean also you need to look at this and think about, maybe my business has come to the end of its life because of how this is actually work out. My heart was so when I had ComAir was liquidating. I mean, we grew up with Edgar's, ComAir. If those guys can fall, what makes us think a small business won't fall? But also I want you to keep this in mind. Edgar's has been struggling for years. Don't take just things and then interpret it as though it's because of COVID. It was bound to happen. COVID just pushed them on the cliff. It's not, they were already on the cliff, they were on ICU. If you were to check the past 24 months, they've been trying to change, doing measures and acquisitions, getting rid of certain things, remapping, redoing, moving more online. So please take whatever that you are reading and understanding and really take it into, put it into perspective. Guys, thank you so much. I'm gonna go through questions and answer. Oh, there's so many questions here. And then guys, we will be ready for you. Okay, so I have a question from Tabi saying, and primary is she's in farming. She finds it very hard to source funders for government financing that are more willing to fund processing rather than primary farming. My core business is primary farming, due to available resources. However, I add processing so that I can improve and expand my business. At this time, COVID, I've realized that primary farming remained the core, need people to eat. It was to it. So instead of saying, I'm gonna send you, I'm gonna type you the place which I have a lady, her name is Dagmar. Her business is Funding Connections. She can assist you to know who are the funders that primarily focus on agriculture and farming. Number two, the other company, which is also called FinFund, that you complete the form, and these questions are like very short, small questions. And once you have answered those questions, it gives you something like a top 5 to top maybe 6, 7 funders that suit your needs. Because I think the challenge with most entrepreneurs is that you don't match your stage of your development with the funder. There's different types of funders, and each of these different funders, they come to businesses at different stages based on whether are you a startup, are you a growing business, are you emerging, and so maybe try those platforms to get the funds. However, be careful to go and look for a funds when you don't have a customer. A customer comes first, then the funding. So someone said, Precious, but then how do I even get a customer when I can't even start producing? You get a customer from purely trust. The first few customers, that is why you shouldn't do cold calling when you're a startup. You should try to look at your warm customer. Warm customers or potential customers are people who know you as a person already. Start with those. Those who are warm are people that know you, or you know them through other people. That should be your primary to get yourself going. Once you start going and you build up a momentum, you then build up your profile to then be attractive to a fund or an investor. I hope that helped. Ntabi saying, okay, so Andres is asking, how often does one need to do the PESTEL or PESTEL analysis? You do it on regular. I prefer that you do it every 90 days. Just ask yourself what has changed and what does that mean? But I'm saying to you, do it even when, if you're someone who watches news, personally, I don't watch news, so I do it every quarter. Ask yourself in your environment, when you're listening to business news, when you're listening to your industry leaders talking, ask yourself what that thing they are mentioning impacting. What is it impacting in my business? Is it political? Is it economical? Is it social? Is it technology? How does that impact me as a business? Is it my strength now? Is it my weakness? Is it my threat? And so consistently be thinking about it. Regular, do it every 90 days so that you can map. The reason why I say 90 days is because all your actions and plans that you should be doing should not expand more than 90 days. If you have taken more than 90 days on a specific strategic objective, you are already taking too long to execute. And by the time you finish, things will have changed. Roy say, in future, instead of importing finished goods from China, why can't South Africa establish a manufacturing base locally and create employment and saving on Forex and creating favorable trade balance? So one of the biggest challenges that South Africa has been having is because one, as a country, we don't have enough demand to consume certain things to make manufacturing viable. We're a very small country. So as a country, generally, you need to choose which things you can process, which things, because it's about the return on investment. But I think this COVID one of the opportunities provide is for us to start really looking which industries we can actually produce ourselves and be self-sufficient. But one of the key challenges also we've had with South Africa, other than the volume, has been the labor cost. The infrastructure cost has always been very high. You see, countries like China, they're always working like 50 years, 100 years ahead. Look at what our government is looking at. When you look at their strategic document, like I'm making an example because I've looked at them, they're generally within 5 years, 10 years. We're gonna have as a country to start thinking 50 years from now, 100 years from now, for us to be able then to compete with China. Our labor conditions or labor relations laws are very stringent compared to China. We have very strong strong human because of our history in terms of apartheid. So we have very much strong human practices that we believe as a country, and based on our forefathers, including our political leaders, that we cannot compromise on. But we need to figure out how to balance that with the needs of the people. And those are the issues that we're gonna need to really discuss, because I was making up an example the other time that I was listening to a radio station, Zulu, and there was a trade union member, that leader, who was talking about that the government must stop the fourth industrial revolution, Derrida, and he goes on and on. And as I was listening to him, I realized that majority of the people that are given platforms to talk or to lead, they are so incapacitated. I got so upset I had to switch off, because it was just about how did we get to have such a fragmented society where a person can actually think it's the government that's going to stop its technology. That is not even within the government. Right now, I think the COVID, one of the things it has done, it has pushed technology way faster than a South African would have moved. And that is good, because it's going to bring that inequality of access of resources closer. Using more technology, we're now going to know which clinic is not working, which clinic does not have the supplies. But it's also going to be about how do we service our people. So I guess there is those things, Roy, and we need to look at them that way and evaluate what works, what doesn't work. David is saying, Precious, we're in arts and culture. NPO were in a process of writing a proposal to National Arts Council and Lottery Commission regarding COVID project. It means the project has to be online or digital during the presentation. I've benefited a lot, thanks. Oh, thank you so much, David. Yes, of course. So you're gonna have to come up with solutions that are digital, come up with solutions that are scalable, but also keep in mind, if you're targeting certain areas, understand what's the connectivity. Also consider partnering with the companies in telecommunication to partner with you on the project. They have CSIs, so get them to actually understand the challenge in that area, partner with them, they can actually assist and facilitate. Roy is saying, please confirm the next 2 days for compliance. Sent, okay, no problem. We're gonna send this to you guys. Thank you so much. Babala is saying, thank you. This was very informative. Babala is saying, why can't the country force retailers to stock certain percentage of local instead of international? It worked on radio and local music. Whew. Okay, I'm gonna talk not as a person who has worked in the environment, and talk as an economist. So you have to understand certain things. South Africa has trade agreements that are both bilateral agreements and multilateral agreements that are promoting each country's products and services. So yes, we can have the Department of Trade and Industry saying that you will need to store this type. However, that will mean the trade agreements must also have been crafted in that. One of the biggest issues that I've raised has been, in our country, we have not protected the industries that really kept this country going. I think COVID, what it allows us to do is to really look at those policy, trade agreements, look at the trade policy we have, and see how can it not benefit South African first. South African first has to come first before the international companies. Our borders are way too open. But as a diplomat, I think we have to understand that, and also as a person who promotes monopoly and economics and all the good stuff about being in an open economy, is that as a business, as a retailer, sometimes the retailers are choosing export because it's too costly for South Africa to actually produce it. As a result, in terms of profitability, at the end of the day, it makes more sense. And I've seen this because I've traveled. When I was in China, China will open until 10 o'clock. And when you go to China store, everything is Chinese. You will hardly find, and even if it's a franchise, I mean, we went to McDonald's. Even McDonald's food is actually has the taste is adopted to the culture and the environment. And I think one of the biggest things that we have done as Africans, we have adopted too much westernized ways of doing things. We need to really look at that. But it also has to do with our identity. Do we know who we are, where we come from? I said this to one of the group that I'm coaching, that I generally teach financial literacy, and I say, keep 10% of everything you spend, because that 10% is a seed. As a child that grew up in a rural farm in KZN, I know we had a place which was called Umsamo, which no matter how hungry we will get during the year, we'll never touch those seeds, because those were going to help us in the next season. But the way we have adopted to this life, we actually eat everything. So it's the same principle. I think it's also, Roy, about us finding who we are and what we stand for, and build ourselves towards those values, towards a certain type of thinking. And I hope that also assists us to think through some of the things. By the way, this first thing that Babalu are talking about, it's actually happening now during lockdown. You can only buy South African local produce clothing. I was at Pick n Pay the other day. That was all available. But again, those clothes were more expensive than the normal price, even though the quality was better. We need to then look at that. Chinese bring cheap produce, or Taiwan or whatever country it is, but then South Africa, the cost is high, then the stuff is expensive, maybe the quality is better, but again, different needs, different things. Okay, I hope I've answered everyone. Thank you so much, guys. I'm just running through some of the questions. There was one question that was coming from Sadiq. I hope he's still here. He said, if the strategy is to bring a strategic partner who will add a value, thus growing the revenue and will buy out domain partners, how can one structure the transaction better? One, quantify the value that person is bringing. Know exactly what value those domain partners are actually have invested in that business. Because if you have not done the valuation correct, you will then have a problem of people fighting about that value or that business. So the first thing you should do, one, value the business. Understand, even though they were dormant, but what did they contribute? What does that, how much was that? How much was that in relation to the business, the value of the business? So that you can now know, okay, this person, the value they brought maybe is 10%, the value of my, of the business maybe is 100,000. That means that person will only have what? A 10,000, right? And then Quantify also even the value of the partner that you are bringing in. Make sure it's quantifiable. That's the thing about business. It's not about how you feel. It's about what would it mean in your numbers. Cedric is asking, Lecoq is saying, task solving basic task in workplace as he master then increase the problem to allow him to develop his strategy. Yeah, that is true. I think as entrepreneurs, we spend a lot of time doing basic tasks than the thinking type, because the strategy requires you to think, requires you to research, requires you to be on understanding what is happening in your industry. You're right. You need to start thinking about how can you empower your team, delegate more, to do more work, so that it allows you to have time to think. But one thing I can appreciate about this COVID, it has allowed us to actually sit down and think. Roy, the team, guys, share please on when are we gonna have our session on compliance. And I think we've answered all the questions, and there's a hand that is up. We love you guys. We're here with you with all the challenges. Any questions or anything that you need as additional support, let us know. So I then looking now at the, oh, there's so much appreciation, guys. I'm gonna do a poll now. Please do the poll. I am launching now. Don't go before you do the poll. I think we've lost about 10 people already. Please, guys, just do the poll before you leave. I'm going through the chart now. Thank you so much, Khabo. Looking through the chart. Guys, please answer the poll. I am looking at some of the areas. Oh, okay. Can you assist with automotive apprenticeship funding? We developed artisan from township already 68, including 16 lady motor artist. Isaac, I'm gonna make a note. Team, please make a note for automotive apprenticeship. There was an incubator that used to have different funders within Gauteng. I don't know which province you're at. Maybe it can give you some insight of potential funders. Always look at those places where they will have an interest on you being able to look to expand. I think Deloitte and Touche, or was it Pricewaterhouse? I think it's PricewaterhouseCoopers. They did some study on the automotive. Have a look at that. Look at who was funding them also, because that's a potential for your funding, Isaac. But let me also think more about it. I'm still looking at the chart. Ooh, I'm taking too long today. Eunice is saying, thank you for your timely and relevant content. I'm a financial coach and the trend needs to redesign the business. Migrating to digital space is my only solution. New platform, new territory. Thank you, Eunice. That is our strategic partner also. Kanye Bito, she's saying, thank you so much for information. For me, who's mentally health field, I also appreciate to go digital, use the face-to-face service. I really need to be innovative. I wish to participate on workshops in mind-blowing. I need business course to get out of this helping with mentality. No problem, Kanye. We actually would love to have you, but we would love also to work with you to figure out what is actually happening right now in the world as we're talking about that telehealth, because I think that is where you're gonna go. Gladys, Bunolo is gonna load that. Is gonna email everyone, because you guys have signed up for this. You should email that with this and also allow you guys to download at a later stage. The emails we have, thank you so much. Oh, thank you guys for the feedback. We love you guys. Just keep on looking for more information. Try by all means to stay productive. Stay productive. And keep on building yourself up. I promise you, it's gonna get better. Gladys has just posted up her email. Guys, please just take the email if she was not registered on the list. Thank you so much. We love you guys. Keep on follow us on our social media. Consume the content every day. Have a look. We are posting everything. We're gonna try to push it every hour. We are really working very hard. Sonta has been so much under pressure, but we're gonna, so that you consume it over a period of time in different format, in different ways. It's gonna get better and it's gonna get easier. Thank you so much, guys. Team, I think I'm ready to go if there's no other question. Yes, we've answered everything. Yep. Isaac, thank you, thank you. Soshanguve, okay, Isaac, thank you. Okay, guys, thank you so much for your feedback. I've opened up the poll. Please, guys, answer the poll. We're done in terms of content. All this information will be emailed, and I'm gonna push my team to make sure it get emailed this weekend so that you guys can actually just go through, consume it, have a look at the stuff. Thank you so much, Gahelko. And guys, thank you so much for the feedback. We use the polls, guys, to help us to reshape. Please also send us things that you want us to cover. Send us things that you want us to cover. We're so eager to look for more information, support you more, guys. We love you. Thank you so much. Bye.